So Jed is running the operations at Tech, and he's also, as Laura showed you a minute ago, he's also advising a number of different companies, including Biophotonics. So he's really a valuable resource for the campus in getting companies to be successful, applying for grants, raising funds, and kind of refining the commercialization process. So today he's also part of the I-Core program, and
yep.
As you heard, Illinois is one of the nodes for that, and he's a teacher there. So he can give you some basic principles on teaching you how to start a company. It turns out there are manuals now. Of course, it doesn't make your probability of success 100%, but it helps improving. And so thanks so much.
Okay, great. Thanks, Gabby. Great. All right. I'm guessing that microphone works. All right. So what I did is I want this to be like a discussion. So feel free to ask questions along the way. And what I did is I brought some fancy swag from the Technology Entrepreneur Center, coffee mugs. But you have to pay attention to get one of these, right? So at the end is what I've got is I got a little activity where I want some of you to participate, but you have to pay attention. And for those that participate and do the best job, I've got these fancy swag from the Technology Entrepreneur Center. So some of you lucky ones will be going home with that. Gabby talked a little bit about what I do, and I think he did a pretty good job about my background. So if I can get this working, not sure why that's not advancing. Okay, so this is kind of how I'm going to proceed. So, and I invited a couple of people with me. I've got Reza from Accelerated Genomics, right? All right, I got that right. And I've got Catalin from Gabby's company. Gabby and Catalin started Optics. So I had them come along and share some of their thoughts about customer development. So my thinking when I put this together is that I want everybody to leave here with a few skills about customer development that can help you if you're, because I assume, raise your hand if you're working on some type of technology. I assume everybody here is, right? All right, so everybody's working on some type of technology. So the idea here is that you got some skills that you can leave here with that you could go back and help you doing your research, whether or not you want to commercialize it or not, but you learn some skills that you could take back and help you with it. So I'm going to talk about the I-Core program briefly. I've got a lot of experience with the I-Core program, and then I want to talk about customer development methodology, and this is where you can get some skills that can help you whether or not you want to commercialize your technology or not. And then I want to talk a little bit about value proposition, and this is where I want all of you to be involved, and again, 5 lucky people will go home with tech swag. And then Laura talked a little bit about the SBIR program, and I've got a brochure, a little flyer that I'll give everybody about the SBIR program. I'm a big believer in the SBIR program. The startup company I did, we took away, I think, $1.4 million in equity-free financing from the SBIR program. And so I can't speak highly enough about the SBIR program. I'm a big fan. And then I've helped tons of other people here on campus with the SBIR program. And then I've got a list of tools that I'll show you that everybody can jot down, or I can send you notes later about anybody that wants to do entrepreneurial things or commercialize your technology, and I'll show you some of those. So that's kind of how I plan on proceeding here. You know what? Yeah, I think that won't go dead on me. Okay, the I-Core program. So who here had heard about the I-Core program before today? So we got like 2 or 3 people. Okay, all right. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. So is what the I-Core program is it's really a pre-SBIR program that the NSF created. So here's the background about the program. So I noticed a lot of people had heard about the SBIR program. It's the tech commercialization program that all of the government agencies have, or most all the government agencies have. They allocate basically 2% of their budget to tech commercialization. Okay? So they've given away billions of dollars to startup companies that are looking to commercialize their technology. So a couple of years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, they wanted to do a research project and figure out how successful they had been at commercializing companies. And what they found is something like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but the way it was told to me is roughly 99% of the companies that they had funded failed. Okay? So when they wanted to dig into those companies and find out why they failed, they found out that of those companies that failed, roughly 99% of those companies failed for the same reason. And it was alarming that they found out that those companies failed for one simple reason, and that was that they were building stuff that nobody cared about. Okay, all right, I mean, it seems pretty obvious, right? So what they did is they created this program called the Innovation Core, I-Core. Okay, and what this program is it's basically getting people out of the lab and doing customer development, right? Talking to people about what they're working on and making sure that you build something that people care about, right? So you're not running 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, wasting a couple of years of your life to find out that you're building stuff that nobody wants. Okay, and so that's what the program's about. It's pre-SBIR. The idea behind it is that you get a PI, principal investigator, an entrepreneurial lead, and a mentor. Okay, and you go out and you talk to people. You validate what you're working on with industry, and you fail fast, right? Because what happens is you go through the program, you talk to a bunch of people, and what inevitably happens is you find out that you're building stuff nobody wants, and you fail fast, and then you pivot, and then you start moving in the right direction. Okay, so is how the program's set up is there's some nodes around the country. You've got Stanford, Berkeley, you've got UCSF. UCSF has a node that's focused just on life sciences. You've got Michigan, they're the only one that's not on the coast. Then you have Georgia Tech, you have one in New York, and you have one at Virginia Tech. And then that's the national nodes, and underneath the nodes you have sites. And Illinois happens to be one of the sites here. And I run the site here at Illinois. As Laura mentioned, we've had 30 teams go through our program. You get some funding from the NSF to do the commercialization, to do this customer development process. And the idea is that you go out and you talk to, through this 8-week program, you go out and you talk to like 100, 150 people. Okay? So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of yelling involved, and they yell at you a lot, and they expect you to go out and talk to a bunch of people. They use the lean startup methodology as well. So what I want to do is, I want to take 15 minutes or so and tell you about the customer development methodology and what this program is based on, okay? And it was based on, and a lot of the thoughts here were taken from Steve Blank, who is the famous entrepreneurial educator from Stanford. Okay, he's had several successful billion-dollar companies that he was part of, and he kind of took his experience and then put it into this program, and so that's where a lot of these thoughts came from, okay? So what it was based on is the customer development methodology was that the old way of building a startup company, a tech startup company, was that you created a plan and then you went out and you validated that plan and you executed it, okay? And we know that today that's not the right way to go about doing it, okay? And so we feel like, and this whole program was built on the idea that we know how to build a successful tech startup nowadays, and that's what I'll talk a little bit about now. So to do that, let me talk a little bit about the history of corporations and companies. Okay? Now, in 1602, the Dutch East India Corporation was formed, and that's kind of like believed to be the first real corporation that was ever created. They were the first company that actually issued stock. Okay? They were headquartered in the Netherlands. And then after that, in the 1850s, was the first modern-day org chart. Okay? And so when I heard that, I was like, I got to see a picture of that. So let me jump ahead here, and I'll show you what that looked like. That was the first modern-day org chart. Okay? I think that's pretty cool looking, actually. Let me jump back, okay? Then in 1908, Harvard University was founded, and they created their, well, they were founded before that, but they created their first MBA program. And the first MBA program was created to administer to educate the administrators to administer these corporations, okay? And they focused on things like organizational behavior, finance, and accounting, stuff like that. And they graduated their first class in 1910, okay? Now, what our learning was nowadays, what we know is that startups are actually not smaller versions of larger companies. And that's what we know now. Okay? Okay. Jump here. Okay. And the past thinking, and our fallacy here with startup companies was that we originally believed that startups actually should be doing the exact same things at day one that larger companies were doing. Okay? That's what we originally believed. And we know this isn't to be true now. What we know now is that larger companies should be focused on execution, while a startup company should be focused on searching. And I'll talk a little bit about what they should be searching for. And this is what the customer development methodology is. Okay? So, as far as strategy goes, in the past, the thinking that should be that we should create this plan. This is what I get a lot as an entrepreneur in residence, that people come to my office and they go, oh, I got to put this business plan together. I've got this concept that I've been working on in my research lab. Okay, I've been messing around with this technology, and I need to create this business plan. And they come with this 20-page document, And in the back of this document, it's even got this financial plan. And this idea is that if we just execute on this 20-page document, it's magically going to work, right? Everything's going to be great. We're going to make millions of dollars, and it's magic. It's nonsense, because what we find is that no business plan survives first contact with customers. Okay? And this is what reality is. In reality is what the business usually is it's like this roller coaster, right? If you think about a week, and this is exaggerated because it doesn't happen in a week, but at the first, things are going well, you raise some money, it goes high, and then after a few months, there's a low, you're almost out of money, and then you make another sell, and things are high, things are going well, and then you're almost out of money again, and things go well, and then you're acquired for $1 billion, right? It's this roller coaster. So what we found is that you actually need to plan before you actually create a business plan. And this is what customer development's about. Okay? So, what we found and what we have now is this tool called the Business Model Canvas. So who here has seen this tool before? Anybody? All right, so a few people have seen the Business Model Canvas. So I want to pass this out. So this was created by a gentleman called Alexander, I can't pronounce his last name very well, Osterwalder, okay, in this book. And this is one of the tools I want everybody to go away thinking, like looking up and being familiar with. Because this was a brilliant tool that was created a few years ago that's used in the lean startup process, okay? And what this is it's a one-page tool that allows you to organize your thoughts about a business model or a company that you're interested in starting, okay? And it can all be described on one page. Catlin, can you hand this out for me? Let me keep one for me. Okay, there. Okay, and so it's really a brilliant tool that was created to help scientists and technical people organize their thoughts and organize their thinking and to get out of the building and validate their hypotheses about their business. So to think like a scientist, it's a way to write down your hypotheses about your business. Okay, so if you look at this, there's basically 9 blocks on this. And how you fill this out is in the middle here, you've got your value propositions. Okay, so your value propositions are the values that you deliver to your customer with your technology. Okay, so what you normally do is you fill out the value that you believe, your hypotheses about your technology, and then you go over here to your customer segments, and your customer segments is whom you believe you're delivering the value to. Okay, and then here you have your customer relationships, and that's your relationships between your customers and your value propositions. Your channels is how you deliver your value to your customers. Okay. That's the right side. And then here's your revenue streams, how you're going to make revenue from your technology. You have your costs. And then over here you have your key partners, your key activities, and your key resources. The idea behind this tool is it's a scorecard for your business. Okay? And again, these are just hypotheses about what you think your startup would look like. Okay? And this was a tool that was created a few years ago and is used by all the lean startup methodologies nowadays. Okay? So again, this was a brilliant tool that came out a few years ago that's used in I-Corps and all the entrepreneurial educators nowadays. Okay, but this was brilliant. So now, once this came out, this gave us a new way to think about things. Now, using this lean startup methodology, we could go out and search for the model, and then once we had the model, we could write it up and execute it. Okay, and this is what I-Corps is all about. And as what we learned with startups that most startups actually fell from a lack of customers, not from a lack of product development. Okay? So the idea, so let me talk about this a little bit. So the idea behind I-Corps is that we're going to write down all our hypotheses on this business model canvas, these hypotheses about what we think is important to our customers, and then we're going to get out of the office, we're going to get out of our labs, and we're going to go out and we're going to actually talk to people about it. And if we think our customers are, so for instance in PhiOptics example, and I'm going to ask them in a minute to share their example about it. So let's say they're a researcher. You're a researcher working in your lab, okay? And you think your customers are going to be university researchers, okay? Then the idea is you fill out your business model canvas, and then you're going to go out and you're going to talk to people that you actually think your customers are, and you're going to validate your hypotheses and find out if they actually think your value propositions are actually important to them. Okay? And if you're wrong, you're going to actually iterate and tweak what you believe your product, or what you think is, or you're actually tweak your product until you get that right. Okay? And so that's the idea behind I-Core. So I'll show you a couple of examples that we come up with. So the customer development process, before I show you that example, the customer development process, this is how it's laid out in a flow chart. So customer discovery, you lay out your hypothesis in the customer, in the canvas. You go out, you validate it with customers, and if you find out you're wrong, you keep iterating before you go out and build your build your company. Okay, this is the process that was innovative about I-Core, and you pair this with iterative development. Now let me show you an example here. Now I'm not sure Gabby will be happy about this, but during the customer development process, you actually build a minimum viable product of your product. Okay, now. Again, during the customer discovery process, when you go out and talk to your customers, you want to build an early prototype of your product, okay, that you can show to your customers. So when we went through the I-Core program with Gabby and Catalin's phase imaging microscope, we needed to build a minimum viable product. Have you guys seen Gabby's phase imaging microscope? Have they seen it? You guys have seen it. It's a pretty elegant looking machine, right? Okay. But it's still a pretty nice looking machine, right? All right, so when we were at I-Core, we needed to have a minimum viable product that we could show people, okay? Now, for a minimum viable product, if you're a software company and you're building software, a minimum viable product that you want to show to a potential customer could be a mock-up that you do on paper, right? Minimum viable product can be something simple. It could be paper, it could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be a PowerPoint. It's just minimum viable product you can show people. So we were at I-Core and we needed to show a minimum viable product of a phase imaging microscope. Okay, so think in your mind, what would be a minimum viable product? Okay, so I'll show you the earliest minimum viable product of the phase imaging. What's the name of the microscope now? What is the product name? Q1000. The Q1000. So I'll show you. This is probably the Q.01. Right here, look at that baby. So this cost about $5. It was a styrofoam cooler from like Schnucks, or what was the grocery store? Walmart in Palo Alto. It was wrapped in tinfoil, and then it had an iPad in the middle of it. so the iPad was projecting the images that the microscope would show, and then the person would look in these two holes, and they could see the images that the microscope would generate. So it's funny, this was 2 years ago, right? This was 2 years ago that we went through I-Core. They still talk about this minimum viable product, the I-Core leaders. I ran into the head of I-Core about 2 or 3 months ago, and he was laughing and said that they still show this picture as one of the classic examples of like a great minimum viable product. Okay? So let me recap. The idea behind customer development is you get a minimum viable product that demonstrates some of your features that you can get in the hands of your potential customers before you go raise like $2 million and go start trying to sell a product that nobody wants. But what we were able to do is we were able to get this minimum viable product, show it to people, and then get feedback from people that we thought our customers were. Okay? And in a minute I'll have Catalin and Reza, both that have been through the customer development process, share some of the learnings that they had from going through this process and some of the things they found out and changed. Then before I do that, let me show a couple other things. As far as organizations go, in the past with startups, the thought was always that we needed to have the same type of organizational structure in a startup. Going through the customer development process, that's not the case. Typically with a customer development team, you don't have any sales, no marketing, no business development. Typically you have a founder, and the founding team gets out of the building and does this on their own. Once you have a repeatable sales process, that's when you bring other people on, but usually it's the founder, the scientists, they're the ones that are going out doing this process. Okay, now just before I have Catalin and Reza talk, let me show you an example of PhiOptics. This was PhiOptics' business model canvas when we started through the I-Core process, okay? In yellow, here's what they found out. Their value proposition, this is what they thought their value proposition was. That was their customer segment. if you notice, pretty much they listed, we listed every single person in the world as a customer. That's a typical problem that everybody does. But here's what we thought our business model looked like. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cycle through quickly the next 10 versions of our business model canvas, and you'll see that the things change as we figured out 1 week that something was wrong. We changed it to red, and then we added green as we validated. And you'll see that the business model, how it changed over the course of the next 8 weeks. Okay, so I just think it's an interesting thing to see. And we would not have known this unless we would have got out of the lab and talked to potential customers. Okay, so here was week 1. Here was week 2. You see, we had a big week here. We got out of the lab and talked to about 20 potential people. Here was week 3, week 4, week 5. That was a big week there. 5.26. Okay, right there. So you can see there were quite a lot of changes that we learned as we went out and talked to about 150 potential customers. And this is stuff we would have never learned by us sitting in the lab thinking that we knew what our customers wanted. Okay, so that's the customer development process in a nutshell. I mean, I just summed it up in like 15 minutes. Okay, so with that, is what I want to do is I want to have Reza and Catalin share a couple of thoughts about the customer development process and have them perhaps say what one or two of their biggest learnings were of going through the process. So perhaps you could just say, Reza, they're not familiar with your company. Perhaps you could just briefly say what your company is, because you're in the life sciences space, and you could say what your experience was with customer development.
Sure.
Does he need to, is this being recorded? Does he need to speak into this?
Only record the sound for slide.
All right, I'll just get that.
All right, hi guys. I'm Reza Farivar. Got my PhD here. Now I'm working on this startup company. I'm a postdoc as well. So the company, what it does is it works in the field of bioinformatics. There are lots of computational steps involved in the pipeline that gets your DNA sample and then ends up in a file or some information that a doctor can make decisions on. Hugely computational intensive steps that at the moment, if you want to look into the big solution, it's called whole genome sequencing. It takes anywhere from a week of computation time to, if you actually want to do it correctly, it takes up to 2 or 3 weeks of computation time. And we're talking about clusters of computers, not a single machine, right? So it takes a huge amount of time, and we work in this space with our product uses interesting technology. I don't know what background you have, but we work on parallel algorithms on GPU architectures to get the speed up that we have. So having said about my background, now I want to actually talk about what we learned about in the customer discovery and iCourse and these things. So, okay, first of all, what Jed says is completely correct. Lots of you, I think a lot of us technologists, we start by saying that, okay, this is a project that I've done, it's cool. There was funding behind the project, so let's actually see if we can start selling it. That's actually a killer idea. By killer, I mean that it's not, it's bad. It's not good. It will kill you, right? Basically, you can spend months and months in developing what you think is interesting, and you published papers out of it. The scientific community thinks it's awesome, and nobody wants to buy it, right? Market is very different than the scientific community or reviewers or whatnot. So you can waste a lot of your time just doing that. Was it Steve Blank that says, I think Steve Blank is the guy actually says it, startup is not a company in the sense that you build a product and you sell your product and you make money. Startup, the whole point of startup is you figure out what to make. Once you figure out what you make, you can call it a day. You can say, okay, this is my startup number 1. I'll give it to some people to go make the product. I'll move on to startup number 2. Startup is finding what you need to do, not doing it. That's why Jed says, most you have to do for a startup is just coming up with a minimum viable product, and that's it. You can say, I'm done. I'm a startup person. I'll go to the next one. Once you get that. I learned this the hard way. We spent a lot of time doing what we thought is going to be interesting for a lot of people, which was correct in the sense of academic people. But once you start talking to people who have the money and want to spend, you see that, oh, their ideas of what is required in the market is completely different. So I probably haven't done as much as these guys talking to 150 people. I did end up talking to about 25 to 30 people. And
you keep doing that, right?
Right.
So that's what's important.
Right.
Keep going.
And it completely changed what we thought might be a product out of our technology. So to finish up, and as my last sentence, even if you have a technology in your head and you're sitting here today, it's a workshop, right? I assume you signed up for this workshop because you have an idea of, oh, I have this neat piece of technology that might actually make up some company out of it. Well, I don't want to say completely forget about it, because in real world, it's not as clear cut as Steve Blank and this gentleman here says. In the real world, you have something, but wipe out 90% of it, right? You have to go find what people want to spend money for, not what you think is cool. And with that, I'm going to give it.
But try it. Yeah. We'll go back and forth. Hi, everybody. I'm Catalin Kiritescu. I'm the CEO of Optics. You're familiar with the technology behind our products. We make microscopes for the life sciences, targeted especially to life cells and tissues imaging. You've heard talks. I mean, the whole point of at least 80% of the school is the quantitative phase imaging, and you know what it does. What I want to go into is a little bit about, as you said, go ahead and try your idea. Even if it fails, you'll find that your idea may be has applications in other fields that you never thought of. So what I want to say, what I want you at least to get out of here today with is try to get your idea in front of people outside of the reviewers that looked at your papers and your scientific ideas, and try to bring it into your local incubator, your local, I don't know, entrepreneur network, and make something out of it. Our experience going through the I-Core program was, again, a little painful in the beginning. It got easier later on. And the most painful thing was starting to talk to people. All of us are used to presenting our ideas in a scientific manner. This is what our product is. This is what it does. When you go out to talk to people, the first thing that you start talking about is a list of features that your technology can do, right? So you start listing things like our technology is, for example, in our case, we started talking about it's a label-free quantitative method that can do nanoscale that has nanoscale sensitivity to optical path length and discussions like this. And many of the people that we talk to, even in academia, they'll be, huh, what is this doing for me? I mean, they will understand the language and understand what is the concept of the technology, but the first thing that you want to talk to them, and this is where you build your value proposition, is how do you help them? So that was, you heard what we got out to people and talked about in the first thing. It's a list of features. Our value proposition is actually a fast and accurate method of imaging live cells and tissues. And everybody can understand that, right? Fast, so I can finish my experiment faster. I can do my diagnostics faster. And accurate, everybody wants accuracy, right? You want accurate results. You want something that you can show to your boss, something that you can show to your board of directors and say, these are hard numbers. These are repeatable numbers. These are things that I can work with. So that's one lesson. I think it's called Features Don't Make Value Proposition.
So let me ask this. So if there's somebody in this room that wants to go out and start talking to people, what's the best, easiest way to reach out to somebody that works at a corporation? Like, let's say somebody's in here wants to reach out to somebody at Siemens. What was the way that you were able to get somebody at Siemens to talk with you?
Yeah, I would say, go ahead, kid. You want an idea? LinkedIn, basically just search.
Who here has LinkedIn accounts? All right, good, so most people. Who here has LinkedIn accounts with like more than like 10 contacts? All right, good. All right.
Right, so it's awesome because, you can search for Siemens in the search field, and it will find people who are 1 or 2 or 3 layers, separated from you. So you can then find out, oh, I can probably ask this guy to connect with that guy.
So I'll tell you my experiences here. So we're all at university. You guys are all university students, right? I believe you're all at universities, right? So my experience has been, so I was at sales at my startup that I was at before. That if you want to reach out to somebody at Siemens, the easiest way to do it is you reach out. So I'm at University of Illinois, right? I was an alum here, and I was doing sales at my software company. That it's amazing how many people will reach out to you if you search for Siemens, and let's say you're looking for what's the title of somebody that works in the role that you were looking for?
Say VP of Business Development.
VP of Business Development. You can go to Siemens, you go on LinkedIn, you search for somebody that works at Siemens, title VP Business, or just Business Development. You just look for Business Development, Siemens, and they have a field for university or education, and you put in University of Illinois, and then it automatically pulls up people that work at Siemens that went to University of Illinois, and then you reach out to them and you say, hi, I'm a researcher at the University of Illinois, and then blah, 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 blah. And it's amazing how many people respond to you. Have that affinity for the University of Illinois. But obviously you don't put University of Illinois.
Well, the university that you're at. Another thing you can do is, following up on the same idea, is when you talk to people, don't present it like you're selling a product or a technology to them. The first lesson that we learned was when you go out and talk to customers or potential customers or interested people in your technology, present it like a way to get their opinion on what a technology can do. Just say, look, I have this discovery, this idea that I have, and what do you think it can do? How do you think it can help you? That's one of the questions that should be asked to the customers. The other one is, and I would say the most important is, what is the problem related to the discovery that you're talking about that keeps you awake at night, that bothers you the most? For example, in our case, we were talking about imaging. So we went to people and said, look, you're imaging your live cells. What's your #1 problem when you're doing that? And many people would say, well, I want to look at them for long periods of time. I want to run, for example, a bioassay on them and do it for 2 weeks, but I cannot do that right now because I need to do fluorescence, for example, to get the best results. Well, that pushes me into time-lapse imaging. So I need to add something to my live cells that kills them and issues like this. So listen to what they have to say. Listen to what the customer or the potential customer has to say. Take notes and then relate that to your discovery, to your idea, and see how you can modify this minimum viable product, which is essentially your discovery, but with the minimum amount of features of your discovery, that you can build a product out of it. So that's I think another lesson. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so this is actually important because if you go ahead and talk to someone and say, hey, I have a product, then suddenly there's a whole bunch of assumptions in his head. First of all, they want you to do the homework, right? So first of all, you have to prove to them why your product is going to be beneficial to them. Nobody will actually spend the mental cycles, the energy, mental energy, to think why your product fits into their solution. And you might think, okay, this is hard. How do I know what they do exactly so that I can prove to them that this is going to be beneficial, faster, better, more accuracy? So this is hard, and it's a fact of life. If you go talk to somebody and you assume that you want to sell them, they won't think about it. You have to prove it. On the other hand, if you just go and say, hey, I just want to know what you think about the market, they're more than happy to talk for an hour.
Yeah, that's right. Well, good. So I'll ask Reza and Catalin to stick around for a few minutes. So now is what I'd like to do is, and Catalin hit on several good points here that I'd like to hit on now. So I handed out a business model canvas to everybody, and everybody here said they are working on, I think everybody said, they're working on some type of technology, okay? So I think, in my opinion, the most important part of customer development and this process of going through and validating your ideas is, the key part is the value proposition, okay? And making sure you get your value proposition right. Because that's the catalyst for the whole process. I think it killed my computer here. So what I'd like to do is I would like everybody to try and write the value proposition for the technology that they're working on. And then I'd like a few brave souls to get up and tell us what their value proposition is. And I'll have Reza and Catalin help me, and we'll select a few of you that have the best value propositions, and then you get to walk away with these snazzy tech coffee mugs. Okay? All right. So let's go. Let me just hit on a couple of key points again about value propositions and what a value proposition is and what it is not. Okay? So a value proposition is what value do you deliver to your customers? Okay? Which one of their customer problems are we helping them solve? And the key thing is what value proposition is not. It is not a list of features. Okay? I think Catalin hit on this, and this is what typically happens. Guys, I see this all the time. When somebody comes into me and I ask them what their value proposition is, and they'll start listing off features like Catalin just mentioned what he was doing when he first went out. Because I've been guilty of this. Everybody's guilty of this, okay? But when you're talking about value propositions, you're really talking about what value you are delivering to your customers. Okay? Everybody got that? Okay. So take a few minutes and think of the technology you're working on and try and write out what you believe your value proposition is that you deliver to your customers. Okay? All right, does that have it? All right. Who's brave enough to go first? Who wants to try it? All right, right here. And then we'll go there. All right.
Wait, so do we have to actually stay over here?
So here's how I would do it. Okay, so you know what? Let me go first. I will go first. You can stand right there. So I was in a startup company that commercialized technology out of the computer science department. Okay, now I've done this for like 4 years. Right? So since I was active doing sales, so I'll do our value proposition. So let me pretend like I still start a company. Okay, so that's it. We're Pattern Insight. We develop software to help you reduce the number of bugs in your software. Okay, and we help you reduce. We make sure that when you fix a bug once, you fix it everywhere. That was it. That was simply our value proposition. When you fix a bug once in your software, you fix it everywhere. Because most of the times, when you're a large company like Cisco, when you fix a bug, you have no idea where else that bug is. So it was find once, fix everywhere. Find once, fix everywhere. The customers understood exactly what that was a value proposition.
Okay.
All right, no pressure. Top that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
So we make coatings for different medical devices. So we work on the biomaterial surfaces for devices that may already be on the market to reduce sepsis. So some of our goals are cost effectiveness, lower mortality rate of the customer and the medical device, and make the manufacturing of the device a lot easier, so don't add extra time to device manufacturing, and also make sure it would be easily FDA approved.
Okay. Good. I think that's pretty good. Any feedback?
Who's your customer? If I would about the job.
So I would say it would be like medical device companies. So like
patient, but the value that you're proposing to the medical device.
I was thinking, okay,
You
yeah.
will figure that out. It's in their targeting.
Okay.
But okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I mean, you can't argue about the role worked out.
Yeah.
Right, so I did a good job of not mentioning features, but actually focusing on what value is provided. So,
Get on
okay.
stage. Okay.
All right, good job. Way to be the first one. What is your name?
Ramya?
Ramya?
Yeah.
All right. All right, second one?
Or do you want to say just customer or just the value?
Value proposition is what we're saying.
So our value proposition would be a rapid way to measure.
Hold on, I'm sorry. First of all, just tell us, here's our technology, here's our value proposition.
Okay, so our technology would be using OCT to measure elastic properties of sensitive tissues like the cornea.
Okay.
So our value proposition would be being able to localize elastic properties on the cornea to treat diseases like keratoconus, because the current method of treatment is a blanket. So this would be tailored to the patient. And so we provide it to the ophthalmologist.
Okay. Right.
You brought your features into play.
That's exactly what I thought. What's the value? So why is that valuable?
So the value is to provide a tailored treatment to the patient, rather than the current treatment is blanket. So this would be specific to that patient.
Specific, accurate.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, so why is that valuable? Why is tailored valuable?
Because
Now, why is that valuable?
Right, so the current treatment is to treat for everybody the same. So this would tailor the treatment to that patient.
So take it one level deeper. Why is tailored treatment more valuable?
So that it would make their vision better rather than just going on everybody.
Okay. So the tailored treatment makes it more valuable, or makes it more accurate and more.
Increases the rate of success.
Right, and so it would provide a specific treatment so that they wouldn't have to keep going for successive treatments. So you get it done once. And
Okay. See, now you've just taken it a level deeper than you had originally. So, okay. All right, good. All right, who's next? All right, back here and then we'll go here.
Should I go up there or?
Just stand up and talk about it.
The technology is a automated machine that would measure the properties of cells, cell membranes, to decide whether they're going to be metastatic or not.
Okay.
It will improve the reputation of the customer because it's a novel test that adds a lot of information to diagnostic and will broaden your spectrum of customers, one. Two, it has minimal operational cost. You don't need to stay. And it's fully automated, so very low maintenance cost. And then the cost of running the test is about $10, and you can charge $150 to $200 per test.
Okay. All right.
And who's the customer? I think they should say who the customer is.
Diagnostic lab.
Diagnostic lab. Okay. Good. All right. Feedback.
Cheaper, faster, more accurate diagnostics.
And low operational cost.
I always say those are the lazy man's value propositions. Everybody says faster, cheaper. That's good. I mean, you said more than just faster, cheaper. You added a few more words around it. But, good. You didn't just list features.
Faster, cheaper, better. Pick two.
Faster, cheaper, better. So if somebody just gets up and says it's faster, cheaper, better, what's prettier? I'm going to say. All right, good job. Okay, where's the other? Right here.
So it will be a cell sorter. Like,
Hold on, we just had a cell sorter, right? Or
No.
it's for a stem cells, but
She's
the
better.
main feature is like it is based on spectral features, which is vibrational spectroscopy. So it can detect multiple components. So right now, whatever we have, it is mainly based on antibodies and all. So there are, like, till now they can't give specificity and sensitivity 100%.
Okay.
because they see one component at a time. So the best part of this is we are looking at multiple components at a time. So if one is failing, we can have the other features which can make it more sensitive. So for this, we will be providing a microfluidics and a database of the various kind of cells.
Can I act like the teachers on iCourt? They're very rude.
Be the Steve Blank.
Yeah. So, what's your value proposition?
Specificity,
Start over.
sensitivity, rapid, label-free. That's why it's cost-effective because we don't need any antibodies and all those.
Yeah, but what's the problem that you're solving?
So the main problem with the stem cells, which is like going towards the regenerative therapies, is they don't have homogeneous cell culture. So they have, so for this kind of this, you at least need 99% to 100% specificity in the cell, kind of. Like stem cells, if you want some kind of stem cells, say for regeneration of skin at the burn portion, or if you have some spinal cord injury and you want to inject. So you need very 100% homogeneous mixture of cells, stem cells. Otherwise it can cause cancer also. Because
Okay, so a highly accurate technology for sorting stem cells, is that?
Yeah, and the same can work for pathogen detection also, because it's based on spectral features. So if you have database, you can use the same thing for different purposes, like pathogen detection, which is one of the main problems.
Okay. So one advice was to keep focus on one thing.
Yeah.
These are very different businesses, I guess.
Right. So it's got to tighten up the value proposition, get it down to short, concise bullet points, and one or two of them. So, all right, good job. Okay, you've got time for one more. Who is first? This one right here? All right, you're first. All right, last one.
Your ears is connected to your throat through a very narrow tube, so ear tube. This tube has to open up every couple of minutes or so in order for you to hear well, to just function well. And in kids and adults, in most of the cases, this tube can get blocked, cause ear infections and all sort of problems. Millions of kids in America actually are affected by this problem. Right now, there is no, our value proposition, there's no technology out there that can objectively basically assess the function of your ear tube. So we developed a technology based on use of acoustic signals in conjunction with the pressure measurements in the ear that can, with high reliability, can assess the function of your ear tube. Value proposition, as I said, millions of kids. Right now, there is no gold standard. Basically, they just toss a coin, and they decide that they should basically inject antibiotics into your body. And we all should know by now how harmful that could be to the kids. A couple of times of use of antibiotics can reduce the strength of your immune system to what I know, to 40% of its original level. So we are proposing a cost-efficient, a fairly cheap, couple of $100 device that could be used in any general pediatrician's office or any ear doctors can objectively tell whether your ear tube is functioning or not.
Okay. So the value proposition is cheaper.
It's basically there is no competitor, there's no technology.
Oh, you said no competition.
There is no technology that can do this, so that's the first value.
How about Professor Bopart's company?
OCT can basically this ear tube is a I don't believe they can see that far, but we can confirm.
No. All right.
I'll be careful right there.
Basically, this is a different technology. We are not looking at the ear membrane or something like that. We are looking deep into the ear, into the middle ear, and we are trying to see whether your ear tube is functioning in the frequency that it should to ensure
a good hearing capability, and
And you add this, you bring this value to the pediatrician.
It could be in any general pediatrician office, and the text basically is what we design is just simply a headphone that you can basically place on the kid's head. They can listen to music at the same time, so it's very convenient to use, and could be used in a clinical setting.
Okay, so I think a couple of things you said there at the end were value propositions, right? That it's easy, it's convenient to use. Just a couple of points that I think are good feedback for everybody. You saw me react when you said there's no competition. There's always competition. Okay, so I think you meant to say there's no other technologies. I think is what you meant to say. I'm not sure that's an accurate statement. One thing that you don't ever want to say, there's no competition. There's always competition. The competition could just be doing nothing, right? But you don't ever want to say there's no competition. Right. So, but I'm sure you're not the only person that would have said no competition. I'm sure there's other people here that would have said no competition. That was just an opportunity to just point that out to other people. Because I see all the time, like people say, it was an opportunity to just show everybody that. But good job. All right, so there was 5 people. I just happened to have 5 cards. So just come up if you pitched after and grab your fancy tech coffee mug. Excellent job. Thanks for standing up and being brave enough to get up and pitch that. But I think overall, I was impressed that for the most part, you all hit on value and not just features right away. Because most of the time when I see engineers get up for the first time and pitch value proposition, if they've not done it before, the first thing they will do is just list features. So good job. All right, so let me close by just listing. I mentioned I didn't hit on SBIR, STTR much because Laura hit on that. I handed out these flyers that NSF program directors just created these recently, and I handed these out. It's just got some information on the SBIR, STTR program. The program manager, program director on these ones is Jesus Soriano. He's, I believe, one of the best 2 or 3 program directors at the SBIR program. He's the program director that handles optics stuff, and he gave me this list to hand out. So if you're interested in this program, it's phenomenal. NIH has a great program as well that handles a lot of medical devices. There's differences between the 2 programs, so it depends on which program you go after. I love the NSF program because once you get in, it's easy. You just have to deliver papers, not actual products. There's differences between the programs I don't have time to cover right now. But you can look up the differences between NSF and NIH. But there's some information you can look up there. Yeah. Great funding once you get in. Phase 1's 150K, phase 2's 750K, and like I said, it's easy money once you get in. The last slide I have here, tools, great tools for commercializing research. I mentioned this book, the Business Model Generation, fantastic book to look through. The other one's Startup Owner's Manual by Steve Blank. This is the methodology that ICOR uses. All the entrepreneurial education for technology across the country uses this in universities. It's the methodology for customer development and validating your technology. So I always recommend the book. They're not expensive. Maybe it's $10. You get a Kindle version of it. This was like $20, but they're great to read. Even if you're not going to commercialize technology, just the process of validating your technology with industry is great. I put that down. Yeah, that looks horrible. I can send you my slides. Gabby's got my email address. It's JEDT in Illinois.edu. Got Steve Blank's website. He wrote a great article for Harvard Business Review entitled Lean Startup. It's great. You can get a free reprint of it from Steve's website. SBIR website, ICOR website as well, and Steve Blank's got a great website for customer development. And, he posts all of his stuff free online from his website. It's always interesting to look at because Steve Blank is just focused on technology commercialization and technology entrepreneurship. It's not stuff. We're more focused on like commercializing a flower shop down the street. Very different than entrepreneurship or engineering entrepreneurship. Anyways, that's all I got. So.
Right. Thank you very much, Jed. Any one quick question left?
No, I'll be around. I plan on going tonight, so
great.
I'll be around.